Hey guys, welcome to Herbie's Reef. Today I want to do a video on the SPS tank and the main tank that we have. We have been fighting for quite a while, and I haven't been videoing well because I forget, but we've been fighting Planarian flatworms in this tank. And I don't know if I can see one. These worms are harmless. Here's one over here. They're harmless to your corals other than the fact that they can reproduce so much that they become in a plague proportions, and they can actually cover up the light to where your corals don't get enough light. My phone does not want to focus on this guy, but that's kind of, they're rust colored, and they've got a little kind of a slit in their tail. Here's another one over here. Let me see if I can focus on this one. Okay, right there. So this is something I'm embarrassed to put a video out about because, you know, it's a pest, and my tank has them, and I've always kept them at bay with the wrasses. I got it from some Cato from a local fish store, and I was a new reefer at the time, and I've been plagued with this stuff ever since. And I've had wrasses that have pretty well kept it in the sump until recently. But recently, I looked in the sump and there were so many in there, and I thought, I'm going to get rid of this. I'm just going to use the algae scrubber, and I threw away all my Cato, and as soon as I did that, they all came up into this tank, which is a bad thing because this is my sales tank. So people come over, and there's planaria all over the frags, and you know, some of them mind, some of them don't. I was always honest and told them about them, but it only happened recently where they started coming, but I just decided I'm not going to sell anything out of this tank until I get rid of these things. But what I worry about, I've always been scared to treat them just because I've heard horror stories of people who use flatworm exit, and flatworm exit's a product that will kill them, and it's reef safe. It won't hurt your corals at all. I've used it before in the small frag tank. The corals don't mind it, but what they do mind is when the planaria die, they kind of explode and they release a toxin into the water. And that toxin is very poisonous to your fish, very poisonous to your corals. And in an SPS tank like this, I've always just been really nervous to treat it. Because I've heard of some guys that on the reefing forums that say they've lost their whole tank to the stuff. So anyway, I hit the point where I thought it doesn't matter. I've got to get rid of these things, and even if it ends up messing my tank up, I've got to do it. So what I've been doing, I got some advice from a friend of mine who owns a local fish shop, and he told me they dip all their corals in potassium chloride. And I had never heard of this before, but the potassium chloride, the corals don't mind it. I've done 3 treatments. I've dipped every one of these corals over the last week and a half 3 times. And if you look at them, if anything, they look better. It brought some of the colors out. Look at this thing. This is a Walt Disney frag, and I mean, it's small, but this is under whites, not under blues, guys. But it's small, but you can see, I mean, it's just bright as it can be. And I honestly think these SPS kind of like the potassium. So anyways, you dip them, and what I've been using is, let me take the filter off. I've been using potassium P from Brightwell. I'm going to walk in the other room where I've got it. This product right here, you can get just regular potassium chloride, but I wasn't sure, I bought some in fact, but I wasn't sure the concentration of potassium in it. And you're really aiming for 1,500 parts per million in the water you dip in. And so on this product, that's 11 grams, right around 11 grams per gallon. So you take just a small kitchen scale like this, and you zero it out. So turn it on, and you'll zero it out with the cup on there, and then you just add the powder until you get to 11 grams, and then you put a gallon in each of your dip containers. And the way I set it up, sorry, you'll have to see me walking from room to room, but anyways, I set it up with all these buckets like this, and I had 3 with dip in them, and then I had 1 to rinse. And I dipped every coral for 5 minutes, then I rinsed it and put it back in the tank. And while the corals were out of the tank, I went ahead and I would vacuum out all the flatworm, all the planaria that I saw. And so, and I just vacuumed them to the sump, but I had a filter sock on. So, and then I changed the filter sock between each session, and I also changed the water in these between each session depending on how many flatworms died. But I mean, when they started dying, this water, the brown water was brown and slimy, so like the first treatment, I had to change it between every dip. And then the last one, I hardly had any flatworms left. After 3 treatments, I mean, I see very few. So now I'm ready to use flatworm exit. And my plan is to use the flatworm exit. I'm going to just do it on this 50-gallon frag tank first, because this is where most of them are. I don't see any on the main display. Let me take you guys in there. Okay, and I apologize. There's a little bit of algae on the glass, and of course my sand goby has stirred everything up right in time for me to make a video. But I don't see any in here, but I know they are in here because they're connected to that other system, and they can hide in the rocks. They'll hide in the plumbing. But if you see, I've got this guy, this Millinaris, and I also have this yellow chorus wrasse. He kind of just went back behind the rock, but that guy right there. And those two are on the hunt 24 hours a day. Well, I guess they sleep at night, but during the day they are on the hunt constantly. And I think they pretty well keep the flatworms in this tank gone. And I've got this guy who is fat, and they say that these guys eat the planaria also. Now when I say flatworms, there's several types of flatworms. The planaria are a flatworm, but they are different than the acro-eating flatworms. They're a harmless one, other than they're ugly, and you don't want them in your system at all. So, and I apologize guys, some of the wiring's all messed up on these tanks. I've been redoing my lighting. I put you can see I've put these Reef brights on. Anyway, that's another video for another time. And I took the T5s down, and I don't really like this, so I'm gonna hang these, but so all my wiring's messed up, and I'm not the neatest of wire management anyways, but I am working on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to treat the SPS frag system first, and I'm going to shut off the water to this tank and to the sump and just treat that tank, because that's where most of them were. And now that I've dipped them, I feel confident that there's enough out of there that it won't poison my SPS. Then after, I'll give that a few days. I'm going to do a huge water change after I do it, run carbon, and I'll take you guys through that process. But we're gonna have carbon set up, and I'm gonna have 15 gallons ready to change out. That's a 50-gallon tank, so that's over 25%. I'm gonna have it all set up to where the parameters exactly match, and I'm gonna have that ready to go. I'm also gonna have carbon ready to go, and lots of carbon. So what we'll do is we'll dose that tank, wait for them to start dying off. I'll siphon out as many of the dead bodies as I can as they're dying, and then we're gonna run carbon and do a water change, and I'm gonna let it sit for a few more days. And then after that, assuming I feel like I've got the majority of those, I may do that again, a couple of times again, because I'm gonna take my time with this, just do it as slowly and safely as I can. And once I'm confident that the majority of them, I really feel like one treatment and I'll have the majority of those gone. So after that, I'm going to do this tank and the sump and everything, and I'll do the same. I'll have a huge amount of water made up, ready to change, have a bunch of carbon ready to go, and hopefully we'll be rid of this pest that I've suffered with for years. And I'll take you guys along the way, and we'll see how it turns out. Okay guys, here we are at the tank. I've got all my fresh salt water made up, and anyway, I've got everything set up. I think I've got 15 gallons. This is a 50-gallon tank. I've got 15 gallons made of fresh salt water. I've checked the DKH, and I've added calcium and alkalinity to where it matches exactly what we have in here. The temperature matches, and I've got a heater in it, keeping it heated until we're ready to use it. I have filled a reactor up with carbon, and I have it on the side of the tank here, and I've already run water through it to make sure that it's flushed out and ready to go. And then I have the carbon So it's set up. All I have to do, I have the pump on a switch so that I can quickly turn it on if anything starts looking bad, or if I need to do anything to change it real quick, then I should be able to. And so we'll do that as soon as we start seeing the flatworms die. We will start running the carbon, maybe a little, after they've died a little bit. Last time I think I turned it on my small tank a little too soon, because I had to run quite a few treatments of the flatworm exit before I was able to get them all. So we will do that, and then once the carbons run through, we'll look and see if we need to. And I've got a siphon ready with a filter sock on it. Actually, I'm just going to use a small mesh filter bag that I've used to siphon a ton of these out already. So I'll siphon them as I see them dying and floating around the tank. So that's pretty much my plan, and I'm going to go ahead and turn the flow back on, and I will dose the flatworm exit, and we'll go from there. Okay, here we are. I'm ready to dose it. I have, you can see, I have the flow well, you can't really see too well from here, but I've got the flow turned off from the sump. So this is all the water that's circulating. It's not going over the overflow right now. And we're going to keep the flow on while we dose it. And the dose is, sorry about that, I had to go get onto some dogs that were barking at the neighbors. The dose is 4 drops per 5 gallons. So this is 50 gallons. 10 times 4 is 40, so we're going to dose 40 drops. And I forgot to say, you leave your skimmer on, although I won't have the skimmer hooked up to this system, but you're supposed to turn the UV off. So I have done that. I have several UV sterilizers hooked up to this tank. This is the one I run all the UV through, and I have UVs going at different rates so that it'll kill both parasites and then algae also. So I've done that, and here we are, we're ready to dose, and we'll get started. Alright guys, I don't know if y'all will be able to see this, but it's only been like less than a minute, and I'm already seeing these things floating around some. And so I'm going to get started siphoning soon, although so far, before I've been able to catch any of them, my fish have been snapping them up. So my Melanaris wrasse in here, he's skinny, and I don't know why he's been skinny since the day I got him. I feed him, but anyway, maybe this will fatten him up some, because he is really enjoying these flatworms. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to see on this video just how many of these are dead and floating around in here, but they definitely have started to die. And the instructions say to start the carbon as soon as they start to die. You can see one right there. And so because of that, I'm going to go ahead and start running the carbon. And it may require, I find some of these are more hardy than others. So I'll probably have to retreat this again and again. Like I did 5 treatments on the small frag tank. But I'd rather deactivate the medication too soon and not have as many die than wait too long and have my corals die. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the carbon on, and I'm going to keep trying to suck these things up. Okay guys, I've finished up the treatment, and I did notice quite a few flatworms swimming around, although not near as many as there would have been had I not done the dips prior to doing the flatworm exit treatment. And as you can see, none of the corals look stressed at all. They seem to have tolerated it just fine. The fish all look good. They seem to have enjoyed the process because they all ate a lot of flatworms, which is good, I guess, as long as the flatworms won't poison them. But all these fish are known for eating flatworms, so they must have some ability to resist the poison. Anyhow, it worked out well. I'm going to repeat the treatment in a week in case any eggs hatch, and then I'm going to do it for the whole tank a week after that, and I'll probably do the whole tank again a couple more times after that, just to be sure that these things are truly gone. I don't ever want them back, and I want to be totally done with them. So that's it for now. Let me know if you have any questions. Please comment, and please like and subscribe.